I didn't know where to go, what to do, how to get out of this. I only knew that now I have to turn my attention to me and figure it out. And that's what I did.
What was your understanding with this internal, let's say, resistance to what you think you should feel versus what you feel?
I was completely blind. Oh my God, what will other people think of me?
So, what are they getting wrong in regards to how transformational this can be? Most people try to change their body from the outside in. High performers win when they change it from the inside out. Because the real question isn't if it's possible, it's whether you understand how. Your body will never outperform your mindset. Can your internal state reshape your performance, even your life? Transform your body through the mind? Most high performers build their career, their title, their income, their respect, and yet something still feels off. Not because they're broken, but because they're not aligned. And that's what we dive in today. I'm Christian Williams, founder of CWPT Academy, athlete, strength and conditioning coach, and transformation specialist. And this is Transform Yourself, the show where we break down the principles, strategies, and execution frameworks that change the way you look, think, feel, perform, and live. I'm joined today by Szilvia Vitos, founder of Liberty and a human-centric executive coach based in Dubai. For 15 years, she operated at the highest level in corporate. Fast progression, executive roles, high performance as an identity. From the outside, everything looked right, but behind the scenes, she was running on empty. Leaving corporate wasn't an escape. It was the beginning of a deeper process. Understanding behavior, energy, mindset, and the internal drivers that actually shape performance. The work most leaders never get exposed to. Through Liberty, she now works with high-performing leaders, general managers, regional directors, vice presidents, and executive teams globally. Not just on what they need to do, but also what's driving it. Because performance is rarely the problem. It's the internal state behind it. Her work goes beyond surface level coaching into identity, patterns, and nervous system, as well as energy. And she's also spent a lot of time working closely with Dr. Joe Dispenza through advanced retreats, deepening her understanding on transformation, healing, and the body-mind connections. Our relationship started at a networking event. Szilvia became a client where we worked on improving her physical performance. In return, she helped me reshape my thinking and my mindset, and we built a strong friendship, and now we have a collaborative relationship helping more people achieve their fullest potential. If you feel like there's more control, more clarity, more alignment that you need, then this episode will change how you see performance. So let's get into it. Welcome to Transform Yourself.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the deep introduction.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely needed.
You said it all.
So good. And thank you for the lesson in language, Vitos, pronunciation. So it's great to have you in. First of all, Szilvia, I want to have a chance to talk to you about, you were operating at a very high level in corporate, and everything was going in the right direction, successful, progressing. What was it that you realized was not really aligned with your internal state? And what was that moment like for you?
I'm not sure when I exactly realized, but the truth is that I am still a very ambitious human, right? And ever since I went out on the job market, I just kept climbing the ladder. Every second, third year, I kept going up. And indeed, I ended my corporate career on the top, I would say. I was part of an executive management team of a major multinational organization in the logistics industry. And I was in a general manager role, heading a department, having 35 people under me. And it looked beautiful in the showroom. It looked really beautiful, and that was where I was the most miserable. I was so miserable. I didn't know what's wrong. For me, that was kind of the normal, because unfortunately, your own perception of life becomes, and your environment becomes the normal. Everyone's normal will be slightly different. So that was my normal. I only knew when I stepped out of that phase of my life that I'm just so miserable that I don't want to go back. I didn't know where to go, what to do, how to get out of this. I only knew that now I have to turn my attention to me and figure it out. And that's what I did.
It's great. And before that time, what was your understanding with this internal, let's say, resistance to what you think you should feel versus what you feel? What was your understanding on working with the body and the mind and the alignment? Did you have no idea compared to the things you know now?
Zero idea. I was completely blind to it. I was completely unconscious and just running on automation. If I look back from the space where I am right now, I don't even understand how I survived. But back then, that was my normal. Everyone around me was the same. So that must be the way. I had no idea. It really was the misery which made me grab a book. The very first self-development book that I read in that state was Robin Sharma's 5 a.m. Club. I think we spoke a lot about it. And I was amazed by it and just took it so to my heart that I started to implement it right away. And this is where my internal journey really started. And then I just really started to turn the stone, so to say, one by one. It's brick by brick. I'm by far not done. I don't think we can ever be done with this. But this journey is extremely rewarding, and now I have a very different idea how life can actually be. It doesn't have to be about surviving. It doesn't have to be about misery. It doesn't have to be about the more stress I have, probably the more productive I am, and probably the perception of others will be that I'm now really amazing and doing a great job, because that was my idea at that time. There is the life where you can be successful, you can be highly performing, and you can have fulfillment inside.
Great. So looking back, obviously, from developing more and understanding more about what drives people, what was that disruption you felt then? What was the main driving factor of you feeling like it wasn't, that you was in misery, and what was it about the external achievements that you were having that wasn't aligned with your calling or your ambition? What was that?
I would say it really comes down to the misalignment of who I am, who is my soul, what's my soul purpose, versus what's my identity that I took on, and it might not be mine. I just made it mine. Because everything that is described by the start of I am is actually an identity, right? I am a general manager, I am a father, a mother, a sister, anything that comes to mind, or whatever we speak about with I am, there is an underlying belief, which is an identity that we declared for ourselves as truth. We bought into that. So I think for me, the biggest challenge was coming out of that corporate success. I call it successful. It's been successful in that sense because I achieved the highest stake in corporate, even though I came out miserable. But what was the toughest really to understand or work through the identity changes. I lost myself, right? I was so bothered, like I meet someone, I was fearful going out meeting people because they will ask me, what do I do when I don't have an answer?
Yeah.
Before I could say, oh, I'm a general manager at so-and-so company, or I have 35 people, I do this, I do that. And then I lost it and at will, and now I have nothing to say, nothing to show, I'm no one.
Yeah, I mean, this, when you're saying this, it kind of resonates with, there was a time in my life where, and it still is to a degree, where my body was my identity, you know. Before even I met you, I was bodybuilding. I was such a big guy. And that, everywhere I went, that's what people expected me to look like. You know, I was like 30 kg heavier than I am now and freakishly looking, right? So I remember that developed a lot of insecurities because I was holding myself accountable to other people's viewpoint or what I thought that was. And it was just feeding my ego, all this stuff, you know what I mean? Raising my stature in terms of my identity. But without that, the fear was I was nothing, right? And I don't know what happened, but it was a process where I started caring less about these external factors. And probably when I was shifting through a meditation and so forth. And, you know, fast forward probably like 2 years after that, then I decided to walk away from bodybuilding. And every question I had after that, even now, if I meet people who knew me back then, they wonder how I feel because I don't look like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm not like, I feel happy. Not because I don't look like that, I just feel happy generally. So why I'm saying that to you, I noticed their response, and that's because their mindset is still in our way. Like, where they would feel sad or upset or embarrassed or whatever it was, if that was their identity, and then they completely shifted. And a lot of people who've been through that transformation actually have done it through, like, they've been injured or illness, so it hasn't been choice. I guess that's kind of what made the transition smoother for me, is like I wanted to change. I wanted to drop my body weight down. I didn't want to look like I used to look, and I didn't want to put my body in the same stress it was under. But that resonated a lot because I remember going back, there was a time where I'd care so much about what people, you know, like you, I wouldn't have to say who I am. You could just tell. This is what I do as a profession. And then how people have been in their own limiting beliefs, and that ego part of them, without that, they feel nothing. They feel worthless. So, you know, a lot of high performance, we both know, they know what they should do and they know what they shouldn't do, but they're still executing the things that are leading them down the wrong path consistently. So what is actually driving that? And how much of it comes down to the beliefs that they are not even aware of, that are driving them in this path? Because, like I said, I was aware of that. Everything you talk about right now, I'm thinking, okay, that's elevating ego. You know, I am this and I am that, and all these things are just titles. You know, another book from Robin Sharman is, you know, was it Lead with No Title? I think it is, The Leader with No Title. So what are some of these beliefs that people might have that they're not even aware of, that are still stuck on this path?
So many nuggets you touched upon.
Thank you for letting me as well.
So many, yes. So first of all, most people are really stuck with this idea of, oh my God, what will other people think of me? But you know what? Everybody else is busy with the same thought. What will other people think of me? If you think about other people, what do you think of them? Not much, actually. You are busy being scared of what other people will think of you. And that is nothing else than the projection of your own identities, beliefs, and all that underlying system, right? Mm. We do not experience reality to what it is. We only see the assigned story, the meaning to the perceived reality around us. And that's how we think and feel. You can put 10,000 people in a stadium for a concert or whatever experience, there will be 10,000 different experiences at the end of the day, because everybody has their unique element in it. Nobody will have the exact same life path what you have, and yours will shape your identity, your beliefs. Coming to the awareness point, most people believe they are so aware. They are so aware. And science says, actually, that's not true. So if you put 100 people in a room and ask them, how many of you do you think that you are self-aware? Most likely 85 hands will go up. But as per science, the proof says it's only about 10 to 15%. Why? Because it's very easy to say, oh, I know what I want, I know who I am, what I do, and that internal kind of stuff. But the second part of self-awareness is how you are being perceived from the outside, and that is almost nobody gets it right. So there are elements to it. Beliefs that we are not aware is actually many, because it is deep work. Most of the time we are just functioning on the surface, and we are aware of very little. We like to believe that we are taking certain decisions. It's not true. It's our subconscious mind who is taking the decisions for us based on very rapid evaluation and risk assessment of the actual situation. 95% of the time, we are running on the subconscious automation. It's just the programming. And the imprint period is the first 7 years of life in psychology as well. It's the first 7 years, and we underestimate the power of that 95%. So we really get to do the work, and we really get to utilize that 5% of conscious awareness to really understand what's going on under the surface. And you know what are the biggest fears the top 3 biggest fears that we probably all of us have to a certain extent? Would you guess?
Fear of embarrassment, that would be one, I guess. Fear of freedom, as sad as as kind of cliche as it sounds, or contradictory. And fear of like exposure, I guess, our kind of embarrassment, being seen for who you truly are. People turn a blind eye to even the way they look. They won't look in a mirror. So that would be, I guess, the biggest driving factor. It was like, if I'm ashamed on who I am, then why would I want somebody else to see that also? So I wouldn't even show myself to others. How close was I?
Yeah, so these are the surface level perceptions. When we start there and start peeling the onion and going deeper and deeper, and what would that mean about you, and what would that mean about you, and we go further down, then what it boils down to is really fear of I am not enough, fear of I'm not worthy, and fear of therefore nobody loves me. These 3 things.
And would that fear of nobody love you be like fear of rejection from
it is
love
all
itself?
Intertwined, right?
Yeah.
Like it's very rare that someone is just struggling with one particular fear. It will be stacked.
Yeah, exactly.
Stacked.
Yeah,
we build up so much.
Somebody was to say that, fear of like nobody loves me, then what they say in the same sentence is they don't love themselves.
Exactly. It all comes down to the self-love. All of it. Not enoughness, not being worthy, not being lovable. It is all boiling down to the self-love. Start tackling self-love, love yourself more, and you will start softening those elements as well.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you said, which was quite funny, it triggered a funny memory. It's like about, people are too busy thinking about what you think of them than to think about you, right?
Yeah.
And there's a saying, and, it's a bit of a twist still in the same sentence. It's like, I am not who you think I am. I am who I think I am. So in other words, you have
know
no
this.
idea.
It's hilarious, but
Yeah.
it's so true.
It's like, first of all, I'm not who you think I am. I am who you think, who I think you think I am. So it's like,
Exactly.
and I've
Gets
been through that.
complicated.
Exactly. At the end of the day, nobody really cares enough. And if they do, it's probably on how you would perceive them if they care so much to what you think. So obviously we talk about ways to train that, and I've certainly done my own work on affirmations, meditation, breathwork, and I repeat this also to people, and some people, although they've heard that it helps, they dismiss it. So, what are they getting wrong in regards to how transformational this can be, and what actually makes these tools work in a way to create real change, not just in their day, but in their life?
Yeah, nothing changes unless you change. Okay, and it is really work. It is deep work and lengthy in a sense that you will not see the change overnight. So it's about staying with it, staying curious, wanting to release, and none of these tools in themselves will really cut it. Rarely. We cannot really expect, and expectation is another big topic, because as soon as you go into any of these with expectation, ain't gonna happen, right? Like, we have to drop the expectation, and we have to find our motivation, our internal why am I doing this, which is much bigger than anything else, which will keep me on the toes. But yeah, how do we start, right? Because yes, meditation is one tool. Meditation is brilliant to use also in terms of understanding what's going on in our mind. Contemplation. Also, you can use it in different angles. There are so many different type of guided meditations as well, which are targeting certain elements, targeting either self-love or overcoming fear and anxiety, or visualizing, tuning into new potentials, future. So many aspects how you can use it. The story with meditation is that when you start it at the right state of being, and by that I mean, people, I think, often make a mistake there that when they are super stressed out, already in an anxious phase, and they think they will switch on a meditation and it will cut it. That's exactly where it will not cut it anymore, because you are in high beta, you are running in high beta brain wave, and you first get to cool this down to at least a low beta and then start the meditation. Because from a low beta with meditation, then you can really go down into alpha, eventually into theta, to then tap into that operating system of the subconscious mind and start implementing changes or finding out real beliefs and stories. Now, first of all, how do you get out of the anxiety, right? I love nowadays using and talking about breathwork, which doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't mean that you have to go for a 2 hours 90 breathwork session to get yourself out of an anxiety. It can take you 2 minutes, and it's enough if you just know 1 or 2 key breathwork types that can help you, which could be like the box breathing is very commonly known, or the 4-7-8 when the stress level is higher. That's actually also used by Navy SEALs under extreme circumstances, because those guys know well enough, no matter what's the environment, okay? No matter what's the environment, they must get in some sleep in order to be able to focus and perform the day after day after day. So the 4-7-8 is another one which is very, very powerful to get yourself in a matter of a minute or 2 down from high beta and then at least into low beta, and then go for meditation from there. Even if you cannot go for meditation right there, but at least you switch back on your prefrontal cortex, because when you are in that high stress state, it's shut down. It's like a blind is down. So it's not the time to think, it's not the time to find solution, it's not the time to be creative, it's not the time to learn, to take in new information, because that's why we often feel being stressed out that we cannot think clearly. It's not functioning. So our primary goal in that state should be to use some somatic way, any tools you like, and it can be breathing, it can be go dance around like nobody sees you, or go for a workout, anything that moves your body and therefore moves the energy, so you can cool down first, then now you can think, and now you can have a more proper conversation. You mentioned affirmation. That's also often being misused, because when, let's say, you feel uncomfortable going on stage or with anything, just having a conversation with people, and then you figure out, you hear about affirmation, and then you start repeating in yourself, I am confident, I am confident, I am confident, and your body is laughing at you that you are not confident, are you kidding me? The thought in itself is not enough. What we have to do is we have to embody it. Like a confident person, how would that person feel? How would that person act and behave? How would that person really show up? What would be the body language? And now become that. Start practicing becoming that. Emotion, thoughts, behavior, it all goes into one. Now you repeat that affirmation while feeling it, while doing it, while being it. Watch what happens.
Great. I mean, and what you just said was perfect, really. It's like when people are in that stress state, there's no way they're going to sit quietly, especially if they feel like they've got too many things to do, right? They wouldn't justify the time, first and foremost. One of the things I've encouraged clients to do in the past is just use mindful opportunities. So, for example, if you drive in the car, just listen to calming music and pay attention to what's around you.
Yeah.
You know, if you're doing a workout, which all my clients are, you make it mandatory after the workout that you stretch, not just to release the muscle, but you change the music and you listen to something smooth. You suppress that sympathetic state and you transition to the parasympathetic state. You try to relax yourself throughout, and like you said, these people often enough are walking around in that sympathetic state. They're not thinking clearly. They're making, irrational decisions. They're running on energy. Their digestion is getting affected. They're not absorbing the food, and their body is a consequence of that. And, the breathwork tools, again, through the stretching, I would encourage the breathwork tools to come in. What I've also found beneficial for me, and I think somebody told me this a long time ago about affirmations, is try to bridge the gap. I want to know your thoughts on this, because sometimes it's hard for people to believe the words they say in. And I know through repetition, like you said, you need to embody how would that person think, is to try to, let's say, for example, that I'm lazy, and I say to myself, you're not lazy, or you're, whatever would be the word for opposite lazy, you're so active, okay? And I might be thinking, what are you talking about? You're lazy. But if I connect it, like, I am working towards being as active as I can, sometimes that could sit well. Like, for example, I could say, I'm financially free. And I might think, no, you're not. You're in debt or whatever. But if I said, I am doing everything in my power to become financially free, I could accept that more, and I think a lot of people could. But through repetition, I've noticed a big change. What I noticed about myself, if I can share, there was a time when I was, bodybuilding, and when I first got into weight training, it kind of saved me. It took me from the streets and from the environment, which was very aggressive and violent and crime orientated, and it put that energy that I had within me from my childhood, first 7 years of my life, losing my father and whatever. I was able, instead of channeling that energy into a destructive output, which I was doing, the weight room allowed me to see physical positive change from the same energy. So I started developing a relationship with that energy. And then I would call upon it even if I didn't harness it. I would harness it even if I didn't embody it. So what I mean by that is, when everything was good in my life, I would go to the gym and I would be thinking of all them things that people used to say about me. I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that and I should do that. And that would rile me up, and it would get a very productive workout and the results would come. And then I used to like imagine them even when they weren't there. So I would make up stuff about me, right? You know, I would think, you know, you're never going to amount to nothing. You can't lift this weight. Okay? And then what I realized after years of doing that, because it developed a really, you know, successful path, I would wake up in the morning and I was getting very negative thoughts and this was repeating. I was like, why am I thinking this? And I realized it was because I was programming my mind to believe them things that were saying about me. And that, just by kind of default, was the evidence I needed to know them things that people were saying about me were not even true. I was making them up, but I was starting to believe them. So I changed everything, right? Instead of walking up and down the gym panting, I would just calm my mind. I would get into that parasympathetic state, even in the workouts. And it took some repetition, but it definitely, you know, I don't wake up feeling like that at all nowadays. We talked a little bit off camera about the fact of some people are addicted either to the emotion from that, okay, but also the outcome. So like I could be addicted to that feeling because that feeling is giving me the life that I think I want, which is either a successful career or a successful body or an intense workout. I'm married to an ideology that I should divorce, okay? But the fear of without that, what I'm going to be left with. So you see this much with, especially like, you know, high performance people in different roles. They got to that position because of maybe, I don't want to say stepping on people because that's not always the case, but whatever habits they formed to get there, that's become their identity and their belief that I need to do more of that to get to that next level. So how do you work with people like that where you realize what got you here is no longer serving you?
Yeah, first of all, I love your addition to the affirmations, and I want to top it up before I go there, that your most precious time for doing that is actually when you wake up. Try to set your alarm 15 minutes earlier than the time you really have to get out of bed, because when you are just in that state of waking up but not yet really woken up, and you just lie in bed and in this dizzy state, you are right there in theta. After waking up, you are right at the operational system in the subconscious mind, now feeding the affirmation, whatever you want to incorporate into yourself, be it worthiness, be it confidence, be it anything. If it's worthiness or money mindset, then keep thinking in that 15 minutes before you get out of bed. I love money and money loves me. Money flows to me easily and effortlessly. Whatever really speaks to you, and then feel it, and you just know this is the state when it goes straight into the subconscious. Super powerful. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so
love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Afterwards, everything you said, it's very true. We indeed are addicted to emotions, and our body will just do anything and everything to find proof and more reason to feel that emotion, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, whether it's being stressed out, you name it, right? So the way how I like to start working on these with my clients is really taking small steps, because these imprints are very, very strong, and these people are in high stake positions where you cannot just tell them go do 2 hours meditation or go do this or whatever. I'm anyway not telling, I'm coaching, right? So I'm asking powerful questions. And while asking powerful questions, first of all, I let them reflect. I ask them to reflect what's working, what doesn't work, right? We identify the gaps, what is not right. So they will obviously be able to acknowledge, I don't feel well in my skin. I'm so much frustrated and stressed out. I don't want this, but it keeps coming due to the addiction to the emotion. So we identify it first, and then we find the big why. first of all, if you stay in this state, then what will that mean for you 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line? How will you be? How will you show up as a person? Not just at work, but back at home, for your kids, for your family, you name it, right? What's the consequence of continuing living life on these terms? Now there is a big aha moment, and now the motivation starts coming up, like, oh my God, if I don't change, then this is how I'm gonna end up. This is not sustainable. Right there is the right flag. From there, we can start going into strategies and brainstorming what are the options, what we can work with, and first of all, really identifying what's going on right now. How do we do that? A lot of reflection and contemplation. Remember, 95 versus 5%. We get to utilize the 5%. Most of us just do not do it. I never did it before I stepped onto this journey. Never. I never knew this is a thing. And it's so powerful. If you think about your day, at the end of the day, now I start there because it will make sense when we look back. At the end of the day, will you find 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, no big deal, to sit down and reflect back on the day? What were your primary thoughts? Write down 2, 3, 4 things. What were your primary thoughts? We might have 60,000 thoughts in a day, but we keep repeating the same.
Yeah.
Then you write down what are your primary emotions throughout the day. Did you feel more frustration? Did you feel more anxious, more negative stuff? Or were there massively happy moments, joyful elements? What happened? Write it down, because by tomorrow you're gonna forget, guaranteed. So thoughts, emotions, and the small reflections, right? What's the highlight of the day? Even what's the low light? If you could do it again, how would you change that? But for now, we are just identifying what's going on. And then in awareness of this, the next morning, you set an intention. Intention is extremely powerful, because intention, not just intention, but, okay, we are energy, okay? We are built up of atoms, and atoms are 99.99999% energy, yet we are so extremely busy with the physical world, the things that we can sense with our senses, right? The things that we can see, we can touch, we can feel, we can hear. Those are the illusions, the reality, the perceived reality. And so, since everything is energy, our thoughts are energy, our emotions are energy. Everything has a frequency that it carries with itself. So does intention. And pay attention, if you put out an intention, which is nothing else than how do you envision this day to unfold, or what is it you would like to pay attention to throughout the day. Okay, my intention is that I'm going to be positive and spread some kindness throughout the day. Whoever I meet, I will be kind and smiling. Watch how the day unfolds. When you are reflecting in the evening, watch how it just naturally happens, because you put out this message to the field, to the universe, and it magically just plays it back to you. You have nothing else to do with it. And then throughout the day, so morning intention, evening reflection, and throughout the day, awareness. And it's part of the intention to become aware, to catch yourself in those moments where it matters the most. I'm doing this I don't want to continue, or I'm doing that, or I'm reacting this way or that way. So you slowly start becoming aware what's going on, and find the things, what are the elements you actually want to change about yourself. And then we build the how.
Yeah, I love it. So I have 2 rituals and principles I live by, and I've been doing it for probably around, I would say, 5 or 6 years. And it starts with a morning prayer every single morning. Like, I do not leave my house. Some minutes, 30 seconds. Sometimes it's 30 seconds, sometimes it's 3 minutes. And every night I pray before I get into my bed. So on my stairways, I stop for my morning prayer. And if I'm in an hotel room, I stop. And I do the same thing, but I wasn't really doing it because of that. Maybe because my body just knew that this was beneficial. But every morning I would set an intention. And every night I would reflect on what were some of the things that I could improve on the next day. What are some of the things that worked for my favor? And then obviously I'm grateful in both of these times also. You touched on a couple of things that I was about to ask a question, I thought, but you mentioned at the beginning of this, something along the lines of like, if you want to change, you have to be willing to change. Something along the lines of that, like to see change, you have to be willing to change. And for some people, whether they suppress their emotions because they're afraid or whatever, but that's still an emotion, right? They could be listening to this and think, well, that's too much work and I don't want to do that. And that's evident of that's probably why you will stay in that position. So you have to recognize, first of all, that you want to change and acknowledge the tools that are around you that you have to change. One of the questions I have for you, which is a personal question really, I'm reading a book called, a personal question to me, I'm reading a book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind, and I love it. It's like right up my street, right, with many of the other books I've read. And this book is very much aligned with Joe Dispenza and what he believes and what you believe and how we can, improve cure ourselves from illnesses, injuries, and so forth. So why I'm saying this to you, I've got an injury, okay? I've been told I need surgery, okay? I have a tear in my rotator cuff. I had a cycling crash a couple of months ago, and I wasn't aware, but I had a tear in my rotator cuff. So I'm reading this book, and I'm like, okay, I want to try something holistic. I haven't told anybody this, really, because why do I need to tell anybody? I'm telling you, so now other people are going to know. But I'm meditating on the idea because I believe and I know to be true that everything my body is made out of come from the infinite intelligence. It come from my subconscious. It come from what I'm connected to, this, my finger. So I believe that if I can harness this energy, I could grow the finger if it was taken off. Because how does that sound? It sounds true. I can grow a nail, I can grow an hair follicle, like people go bald. But their body was producing air. At one time, they were producing air. So my question is to you is, where is the limit? Like, are you along the same mindset as we can really create the change we want to see and there is no limits? So yeah, that's kind of what I want to know.
I used to say the sky is the limit, and I changed that. Even the sky is not the limit. And I truly believe that by now. I have been exposed way too much to way too many miracles to believe anything else. And I'm someone who was growing up in a very, like a very mediocre family in middle of Hungary, where we were really living in just that physical 3D reality. What I mean by that is there was zero talk about either emotions, zero talk about meditation or energy or anything like that. Like, this is part of some of the cultures. Look at India or many others, right? For us, this was nowhere on the table. So for me to discover these things for myself is huge. It's so huge, and I'm blown away by what I'm seeing, witnessing. And you mentioned in the beginning Dr. Joe Dispenza. I have been at his retreat, but there was a lady standing on the stage and talking about growing back her organ. As an example, there is another one who is shown in his movie, The Source, who has grown back her thyroid. And since that one lady actually did that and it became public, several other examples followed. It takes always one to show that it's possible. and so many diseases at the retreats as well. ALS, MS, you name it. Oftentimes incurable diseases, people already in a wheelchair, and they stand up and start walking. How is this possible? Well, we are all created by a higher intelligence. We must be. And the logic behind this, and I'm a very logical person. I'm so much in my head, right? I'm not the woo-woo person. I need the facts and the data behind everything. And but think about it for a moment. How fascinating, brilliant our human body is. More than that, the entire ecosystem, how everything is just working with everything in synchronicity, right? The plants, the animals, us, the humans, everything, nature, if you think about it. But just the body alone, you don't need to remind your heart to not forget to beat. You don't need to remind your arteries to let the blood flowing, do you?
No.
Right? You don't need to remind yourself to take a breath. Maybe a reminder would be good to breathe deeper. But it is just happening by itself. This is, what is this if not a higher intelligence that created us? And so I truly believe that we are having a human experience in this body, in this lifetime, but at the core of it, we are the soul. And really to find the truest connection to our soul is what will bring us more happiness, more fulfillment in this lifetime. And from there, we can then grow further. And so coming back to your question also on the healing the body, it's truly anything is possible. If you look at the Western medicine, there is nothing else happening than treating the symptoms. That's all that's happening.
And creating more problems.
Creating more problems and making the drug industry rise and thrive and survive. And this is very, very sad. When you see a little bit behind the scenes in that aspect, nowhere they have the goal to really cure. It's really very sad, but the only one you can count on is you. And so what do you believe is possible will make it or break it, very likely.
Yeah. And for a lot of people who do have a religious foundation also, you know, the scriptures, especially the Abrahamic scriptures, talk about, you know, we were made in the image of God. So we have the creative ability. So that's a little bit more accepting for people along that faith. And like you said, even if you're not a person of faith, but you're aware, of course, of like an acorn will pack the entire lifespan of an oak tree, like, you know, look at how what we are here from just, you know, some atoms coming together, cells forming. So we can harness that intelligence. I guess what people need, same with the affirmations, they need a little bit of proof. And like you said perfectly, you started out when you talked about the affirmations, is like seeing how your day changes, set the intention, and that's your proof. If you set the intention that you believe, for example, that money flows through you or to you, watch how many things come your way. You might walk out and just find money on the floor, or somebody might give you something, you know, might give you an opportunity. And if you do that, you get in them affirmations, because that's what the affirmation is, right? You're affirming it. You're affirming that belief, embodying it. And then, like you said, there is no limit. Like if I believe, which I do, that I can repair my damaged shoulder, okay? Now, obviously that might take longer than just me believing that today is, I'm gonna meet the right person who's gonna come into the company, whatever. But that belief, the stronger it gets, the more creative you can become. And it works the other way, right? If your beliefs are working against who you want to become, but you believe that you are poor, you believe that nobody loves you, you believe that you're never going to get a promotion, then you probably won't, you know? if you believe that to be true also, it most certainly will. So it's not really a case of doing the right things. It's about understanding the process of what leads to the life that you want to live.
And don't forget, the right things will be very different for everybody. Because also in my work, I get to meet the person at the point where they are right now. They might not be ready talking about higher intelligence and stuff, right? I was not ready 6 years ago. I swear, somebody came to me talking about this seemingly woo-woo stuff, I would have laughed at them. But we are building it up brick by brick by brick. So whatever you are ready to receive right now, this is where you start. And this is very unique for everybody. If it's the affirmation, then start there. If you are ready to do 5 minutes meditation, start there. Then we will increase it to 10, to 15, to 30 minutes over time. Because now you start seeing and feeling the benefit. You start realizing, oh my God, I tried this box breathing and I cannot believe how it just shifted me from being stressed into being calm. I was about to cry and I remembered it. I just did it, and 5 minutes later I didn't understand why I was about to cry 5 minutes ago. You know, like these tiny successes are so critical for every individual's personal growth, and that's what will take you further. And that's what's so important, that we are all on a journey. It's a journey, and so it's unique.
Yeah, I love it. And I think we could talk on this topic for hours, and we certainly should again. And on that note, you know, for some of the viewers, of course, where they just getting introduced to this type of understanding, there are some of the steps to follow. So thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. We do it again. We dive deeper. And like always, if you're new to this channel as well and you like this content, please subscribe. It definitely helps support. Share with somebody else who might see value in it also. And as Szilvia mentioned, you know, mentoring, we're giving you some tools that you can take away. Use what you feel like you can, what's more unique to you, and hopefully we'll see the same change. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.